solution that delivers increasing the value as your needs are changing. As my colleague Nikolaj will show in just a few moments, the expanding manufacturing intelligence solution increasing the value will provide even more value, reduce the data silos. As my colleague Nikolaj will show in just a few moments, and help the expanding manufacturing intelligence solution increasing the value will provide even more value. It's not reduce the data silos. As my colleague Nikolaj will show in just a few moments, and help the expanding manufacturing to drive continuous sustainable improvements across your entire operations. As we prepare for this next phase, we invite you to join us on that journey. We are solving problems of today by preparing you for the challenges of tomorrow. Let's eliminate efficiencies, empower your teams, and build factories for the future together. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
So as Søren mentioned, coming up next, we are going to have Nikolaj speaking a bit more in depth about what's actually coming in the product. So you're going to actually see some of what the product team has been working tirelessly on over the last couple of months. They have been working some long hours and super stressed. So, but it's going to be very impressive what you come to see. But enough of me talking about it. Let's see it. Please welcome Nikolaj Arslev.
We'll do like this. Can you hear me? Cool. Great to see you all. I'm Nikolaj, product manager here at Factbird. I have been looking forward to share with you what's coming next, but just before we get to that, I'll touch upon a little bit where we're coming from. Søren mentioned it, but we've been developing solution for 7-8 years now, reiterating, refining, keeping developing, but all with the promise of deliver a plug-and-play solution that can link your production equipment to the cloud. Provide you with data to make informed decisions that drives improvements and eliminates waste. And we're still on that mission. We haven't forgot. For the past 2 years or so, we have been experimenting with adding new features to our platform, all based on inputs from you guys. You might be familiar with preventive maintenance, and-on, condition monitoring, manual counters, action plans, all which come from ideas from you guys, our customers. But when we started 2024, we knew that we had to take a little bit of a different approach. We still want to be an outside-in development organization, but we needed to take a different approach by simply not just adding features here and there, but a more holistic approach. And everything that we do in Factbird is centered around the factory and the shop floor. And we need to understand and help you guys get the job done. And especially when we're considering the interaction between the plant manager, a team leader, and the operators. And we still need to provide this fit-for-purpose solution that's easy to use and easy to get value from. But the way we have thought about it is sort of addressing these jobs to be done in 3 dimensions. And the first one is what we're currently doing and have been doing, which is help you guys manage performance. Tracking data, understanding your downtime to drive informed decisions on how you can make improvements. Understanding how your OEE is developing, trending over time, setting targets and understanding why we are not hitting it. Diving into the gaps and make the right decisions on how we can get there. And we continue down this path, but we're adding 2 more dimensions to our product. The first one, or second one, is about managing execution. And we've been centered and focused on what is happening with the production line, and now we want to expand upon that scope. So we'd like to focus on the shop floor and all the activities that are carried out in the surrounding of a production line. So whether that is quality checks, inline process controls, maintenance tasks, whether it's preventive or reactive, we need to be able to assist you with all those activities. Thirdly, every production company is on a journey towards operational excellence. Whether they have just initially begun taking a few steps or have been working on it for many, many years. And we want to be part of that journey. And when we think about operational excellence here at Factbird, for us, it's about improving people and improving processes. We need to make sure that the people are properly trained and that we equip them with the capabilities to carry out the jobs that we're asking them to do. And we need to be able to manage that in a simple way. And then there's the part about processes, because not all processes are easy to understand and easy to carry out, and we need to continuously improve upon the way we do things so it becomes easier for our employees to do the work that they do. And how we're going to tackle that in Factbird is by introducing 3 applications: production insights, connected operations, and knowledge excellence. And I mentioned this a bit before. We are not forgetting where we're coming from. This has been our bread and butter for the past 7 years, and we know that we still have a lot of room for improvement of the existing product. So when you think about production insights, I want you to think about more or less all the features that you know in Factbird today. And when we address the product, or when we think about the product, it's 3 main capabilities. It's data capturing, it's shift management, and then performance analytics. And it's especially in the performance analytics part where we believe that we can do a better job. Providing you with more automated analytics tools where you don't have to go in and look for the data or export it out of the Factbird system, tamper with it in Excel, Tableau, Power BI, or tools like that, but simply do it within our system. One of the things that we're bringing in January is what we call Factory Overview. And here I've made the example of a medium-sized company known as Factbird Brewery, where you can see that production lines exist both in Europe and North America. And then you have the consolidated view of the performance of all those assets within the 2 regions. You can then navigate down to Europe and see how you're organized. Here we have sites in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. And once again, the consolidated performance of those countries. And then we dive down to the most granular level, which is the shop floor and the production line. Here providing you with a simple overview of all the assets that is running, their statuses, and where you should focus more, where you should put your attention, and where the biggest need is currently. And all of this will work according to the way you set up your organization in Factbird. So whether you have business organizations or regions or countries, it will be reflected in the system once you have set up your organization. So you can both get the consolidated view of how all your assets are performing, but also the granular view on day-to-day operation within the factory. And then, like a lot of other companies, we've been following along with the developments within AI, and especially large language models. And for us, we've been trying to figure out how to best apply this technology, because for us, it's a tool that we need to be able to utilize in order to create value for you guys. We have been back and forth, and our vision is that we'll bring an assistant to market that you can simply ask questions and get the reply and the direction that you need. In the ideal scenario, a shift manager would be able to ask the question, what's my top 5 priorities for the upcoming shift? And it would guide you in the right direction. I think I also have to mention at this point in time, we are not there yet. But we'd like to invite you guys on the journey towards getting to it. So once we're releasing it, it will be in a beta version, but we'll truly value all the inputs we can get in order to make this a better product. Then we're on to connected operations. And I touched upon it a bit before, but for us, connected operation is linking all the activities that are occurring on the shop floor to the cloud. So understanding what people are doing, but also equipping them with the instruction on how to do things. Because we need to make sure that we set the standards of how we ask people to operate our equipment, and we need to present it to them whenever that is needed. And then we need to be able to track, well, how did it actually go? So that they can put or feedback into the system, and we can go and back and look at it historically. And for us, this is both raising quality, but also ensuring that our maintenance activities are addressing the proper needs. If we go back to the Factbird Brewery, I'm here at bottling line number 1, and you can see that I have a list of different activities. And you'll notice that I have my batch changeover checklist. I have various in-process control and quality checks. I have a shift handover checklist and various instructions for how to properly set up my equipment. And the idea behind this is that you can tailor it to your factory and your company, because we know that this looks different from company to company. So we'd like to offer you the possibility with a flexible tool that you can customize and tailor to how your organization is structured. So I can easily delete and create new activities, or I can edit existing ones, similar to, or like this one. Here I have a fill level test on my filler, where I have put in some instructions on what I expect to be done, and then inputs based on the measurements that is done on the shop floor. And I can change however this activity should look like by introducing different elements, whether that be adding a date, marking pass or fail, inputting numbers, images that help better understand what it is that I actually need to be doing. And this is the first part of connected operations. This is establishing the standards and what we expect our people to do. What are the processes that I need to carry out? But the second part that is probably just as important is making sure that this information is presented to them at the right time. And this is where, if you have used our product-specific controls, we have the functionality of triggers. And triggers will give you the opportunity to instruct when this should be triggered on the shop floor. So if I'm an operator, I know when I need to do this task. And in the past, this has only been linked to batches, but we know that there is a lot more complexity to it. So we're adding functionality so you can make it depending on shifts, on specific stop courses, or a calendar view where everything or this specific task needs to be done once a week, twice a week, and so on. And then how does all this look like? Well, if I'm an operator and I get presented with the fill level test, I can see my instructions up top, 4 measurements that I have to put in, have to mark whether this test fails or not, and then finally put in my initials. And what this will enable you to do is to go back in time and track how is it going. So I can look at a time range and understand all the activities that were done on the shop floor, how did it go? And I can go back in time and look at my fill volume test to see what the data was inputted, how it looked like, what actually happened on the floor. And if you need to be more specific and understand how a certain batch went, you just filter and search for that specific batch, and you'll get the full story. Here we have a failed activity that I would like to understand in more detail why that is. And I'm once again able to simply open it up and see all the information that the operator put in at the time of execution. Then we're moving on to knowledge excellence. And as mentioned previously, for us here at Factbird, it's about improving people and processes. And that's why when we consider this, we look at 3 main capabilities: training, skills management, and then operational excellence, improving the processes. And the reason why we think this is so important is that if we don't equip people with the right capabilities, they're not set up for success, and we'll once again face more downtime. And secondly, we need to make sure that what we ask them to do is a simple process that's easy to understand and easy to carry out. So we need a way and we need to apply tools that can help us improve upon those processes. Diving in on what's coming in January, we have our learning management design for the shop floor. And here we're once again back at bottling line number 1 at the Factbird Brewery, where you can see that I have a simple overview of all my employees and the skills that I expect them to have in order to operate this production line. You can see who has completed the training, which one is still pending, and who hasn't been assigned yet. And I can easily manage who should be enrolled into the different skills and see, okay, well, when I'm enrolling a person in this, what am I then expecting them to go through in terms of training? And once this is done, the skills matrix will update, and when the employee has carried out the training, the skills matrix will update accordingly. So you constantly have an overview of where are my gaps, where do I need to put in more effort to make sure that people have the right skills to do the jobs that we ask them to do. And similarly to activities, we know that not one plant is necessarily the same, especially not when you're considering company to company. So here I've created my skills for the Factbird Brewery bottling line number 1, which consists of some general skills in cleaning, quality control, understanding the equipment, and then a separate training in each of them so they know how to operate it. And again, this is fully customizable. You can delete, add, or edit existing skills and make sure that the correct training and learning activities are associated with that skill. So if we look at the labeler, for instance, I expect my individual, before they're properly trained in operating the labeler, to go through 3 learning activities. So an introduction, where I read a document to understand the equipment, a job shadowing session where I'm following a colleague that show me how the work is done, and then finally showing it myself that I can operate the equipment autonomously. And all these learning activities is something that you guys built and put into the system. And the way we think about learning activities is a representation of some sort of training. It can be taking a test, reading a document, attending a classroom training or a shop floor training. It can be displaying that you know how to operate equipment on your own. But again, a fully customizable and flexible solution so it makes sense for your world and how you've structured your factory. I can once again go in and you can see that here I have outlined for a job shadowing session what I'm expecting of the employee to go through to perform this training, looking over the shoulders of another employee and making sure that I go through all of these activities. If we go back to the single user of the system, the operator on the shop floor, they will have a personal view of all their existing skills, what we're expecting of them in terms of training they need to attend, and what they have yet to do. So here you can see that I have a new employee who's been enrolled in everything and has yet to do the training, but everything is presented to the individual in this personalized view. So, what we envision with the next step of Factbird is that we're bringing these 3 applications to market. And through production insights, we'll continue to help you to manage performance. And through connected operation, we'll enable you to better manage execution. And then with knowledge excellence, we'll ensure that we are part of your journey towards continuous improvement, so you can improve upon your operations. Here is a roadmap of the development within the 3 applications, and I won't bore you with all the details, but just want to let you know that we will continue to develop on our existing product through production insights, and we'll add to the capabilities of both connected operations and knowledge excellence as we progress throughout next year. Thank you. What? Oh, any questions? And if not, I'm here all night, so you can come over afterwards. Go ahead.
I just have one question. After, for example, a food safety training, would they be able to make a quiz so we can see what they learned, they also apply to new knowledge?
We, in the current scope, do not have a quiz functionality. Oh, sorry, just so the people online. The question was, do we have a functionality to add a quiz to a certain training in order to test that the individual who participated know what to do? Within the current scope, it is not there, but we're not done developing on the product end of next year, so definitely an opportunity there. Other questions? All right. If you think of something, grab me later. Thank you.
If you do have some questions later that come to mind, you can look for people with these purple bands around the thing. So some have the white and some have the purple, like I'm looking at Nikolaj here as an example. You can go up to them. They are Factbird people who are more than happy to answer any questions you have about the system. And beyond that, we also really want to hear your feedback. And you can meet this man with a beaming smile, Anders, and he's always smiling like this. So he's very approachable. You could approach him because he is head of our product design at the minute, and we really value any feedback we can get on this. You know, as in like as Nikolaj mentioned, we develop with you guys in mind, and so your feedback is essential to how we move forward with this. So any feedback of like, oh, could it do this? That quiz is a great example. It's invaluable for us so that we can move forward in the right direction. Moving on to Trevor Hewson, who I mentioned is a lecturer at the University of Lincoln and is going to be giving us an insightful talk on driving continuous improvement. Please give it up for Trevor.
Right, evening everybody, and thank you for Factbird for bringing me here. An opportunity to speak to you all. Now, being a lecturer, I do like a deck of slides, so apologies for all the PowerPoint slides. I'll get through them as effectively as I can. Really interested to hear what's been said so far. Søren and Nikolaj both talked about skills and enabling skills to bring that into the day-to-day running of a factory, linked in with some of the data systems we have involved. That ties in really nicely to the issues that people have had, put stickers on. There are no stickers on skills challenges. That's a bit of a worry for me, seeing as that's my role. But anyway, we'll work through the slides. I want to tell you a story about a factory. This factory, part of a multi-site organisation, pretty large factory, around 1,300 people worked there. However, it was losing £10 million against budget on a yearly basis. So they got problems. We had poor staff retention, partly due to location, but also due to competitors in the area. Production from that site was interchangeable between other sites. Now, that put this place at risk. This factory was at risk of closing, losing 1,300 jobs in a pretty deprived area. We're going to come back to that and tell you what happened with that site. Now, one of the things I was asked to think about when I came up here was, how does Industry 3.0 link into 4.0? I think this flow has been natural. It goes back to Henry Ford with his piece of paper, watching cars being made. He was analysing data, but it just took him a lot longer. We're now in a position where we can analyse that data and get that data in really, really quickly. And effectively how that data is used is going to change massively. And that's partly why we're here. Now, traditionally, CI has worked pretty much on this process. We're going to define the scope. We're going to identify some opportunities within the business. We're then going to move on. We're going to plan how we're going to address them, implement some changes, monitor what's going on, part of what these guys do, and then review and understand, did it work or did it not work? That's a fairly straightforward model. Now, the way that the flow of that works, traditionally, top-down, corporate level tends to give the objectives to the teams. What would they like them to do? How they're going to do it? They're going to advise that. And shop floor, do all the activity and push the results upwards. That creates very, very stratified levels and makes it difficult for people to flow. It looks quite complicated when you put it into a system like that. Traditionally, we've got the management and behaviours at the top of that layer, really trying to push things, really trying to make a difference. In the middle, you've got the data layer with all the noise, and all the noise coming backwards and forwards. And then, further down, you've got the processes. Processes generating the data, but not really sure how to use it. And, you know, in an ideal world, the flow there would be nice and fast, people able to access the data, able to use it effectively. That's theoretical space. Real world is a little bit different to that. We want to know how we can drive improvement in the here and now. And how do we get there? Well, yeah, we need a map. We need a roadmap of how we get there. And you don't know where you're going to go if you don't know where you're starting. You'll get lost very, very quickly if you do. Within businesses, within all businesses, there are little pockets of excellence. It happens naturally. There's stars within your businesses. Within all your businesses, there will be some stars, and there'll be excellence and improvement, people wanting to drive, wanting to push on. We've got to grasp them and use them. The challenge is how you widen that engagement, how you pull people together, how you make sure that those pockets of excellence become pockets of growth and pockets of understanding. What stops that is the blockers to success, and there are many. There are many people that will stop you from achieving what you want to do. That may be technological, it may be cultural, lots of different elements to stop that from happening. Now, we did ask a group of people what their improvement challenges were, and we highlighted 5 challenges there. I'm going to pull them onto the next slide to describe them in a little bit more detail because it's a little bit small to see there. But there were 5 challenges, and we looked at what those 5 challenges entailed. So you've got scaling of CI, difficult to scale. You've got capability building, people engagement, supporting data-driven decisions and cross-functional collaboration. All of that linked together is about people. Every single part of that is about people and how you utilize those people. We've got brilliant systems. Factbird have got a great product and a number of great products. But we've got to access it, and we've got to get the people involved to do that. And there's a challenge involved in that. Part of the challenge is we've got people that are doing the jobs for you, working on the shop floor for you, haven't got the skills. So adult numeracy, I picked on that one because I think it's quite relevant to what we're talking about. Adult numeracy skills in the UK, 25% of adults in the UK have poor numeracy skills. That instantly presents you a challenge. We've got great data. How are they going to access that and understand what that data means? You're a good bit better in Denmark. You've got 15%. But But I think everywhere can do better than that. So we've got to educate teams. I would say that, I'm an educator, so I have to say that. How do we do that? We make the improvement journey part of everything you do. You ensure that your teams have the understandings they need. I was really, really pleased that both Nikolaj and Søren talked about the long-term return on investment, being around skills and being around that knowledge and excellence. Søren mentioned somebody called Lisa in his slides. Lisa was a team leader and accessed data to help her make effective decisions, understanding what was going on. What we need is lots and lots and lots of Lisas. We want your whole shop floor to be Lisas. And you can do that by making sure the teams understand what they're doing. And when we've done that, we don't ease off. We've also not got to scare the workforce. People talk about CI, talk about improvement, and quite often they get scared, or they become disengaged because of failures before. And that's a common theme through my career in industry. I've seen that regularly. So, the way that I would approach embedding something like this, I would call it skills improvement. I wouldn't call it quality improvement, because that comes, continuous improvement comes, call it a skills improvement process. Get people engaged, get people brought into what they're trying to do. And going back to the chart at the beginning, I would still define the goal, understand the scope of the project, what do we want to do. The next stage, though, is to train the team. The guys down here talked about long-term return on investment coming from that. I think that starts the process as well. You start that early, you get people involved in that journey, start helping them to understand what brilliant systems like this can give, but making sure they do it from a steady, continual level. The rest of it's pretty much the same, really, apart from the last bit. Don't stop. When you've got round that cycle, don't stop. Definitely don't stop, because if you do, eventually you'll get caught up again, and you'll be in the same position as you were when you started this process. So, I think it looks like broadened activity, broadened improvement. Everybody's getting involved. We've got activity embedded in all areas. It's not just the shop floor. It's the HR team. It's the engineering team. It's the quality team. And again, some of the checks that Nikolaj described will enable that. You get higher drive and shop floor activity, extended and sustained improvement. Your curve doesn't go like that. It goes like that. And your curve is much steadier, but you get more sustained results. So, the challenge is for you guys to go and make it work. Create your own CI vision. What does it look like to your businesses? It isn't just going on and doing a Kaizen event. It's doing so much more than that. It's not just about leveraging some data. It's doing so much more than that. Undertake your skills improvement project, linking it in to your long-term return on investment that you talked about, and making the data work for your teams. Data's there. Data's never been better. I go back and started my career 30 odd years ago in industry. The data was still there. It just took longer. Use data as your improvement sat-nav. Help it guide you. Help it push you along. And I've got two messages for you to take away to understand what I mean by this. I think the first part of everything you do is to standardize your activity. Make sure everybody's doing the same. That makes this measurement so much easier. It makes it so much more straightforward to control. So standardize that activity. But in doing that, make sure your teams are educated. Democratize their ability. Make sure they've got everything that they need to make those decisions. Make sure they've got everything they need to have lots and lots of Lisas in your factories. Okay. And then the last bit, what happened in the story at the beginning? I found this quite inspirational. I worked for the business, and over the course of 4 or 5 years, we slowly turned it round. It was led by somebody quite inspirational at the top, somebody who was very much a people person, drove things. Alongside him was somebody that was incredibly driven from a knowledge and a grasp of the minutiae of everything they did. Those two people understood that it was a skills improvement process. They made sure that improvement activity was driven into every single person in that place. All 1,300 people played a part in the improvement activity there. And it really did help. It really did generate a churn. Didn't happen overnight. It took 2 years before we actually got control of things. However, we did. We got there. Factory turned around. This production facility making 1,300 people have a job actually grew a little bit. Grew to about 1,500 people. And it turned that 20 million loss into a 10 million profit against budget. A real success story and a real example of how getting skills right, but linking it into the data, making sure the right level of data was coming along with those skills, pulled everything together to create a sustainable change. The place is still improving, still getting better. You know, it's only 20 miles up the road from me, and it's really pleasing to be part of that, and really pleasing to see the thought process of some of the things Nikolaj explained here that will further develop that and further improve that. Okay, that's all from me. That's my attempt at Danish. Mijn tak. May or may not be right. We are doing a question and answer session at the end as well, but if you've got any questions now, happy to answer them. Nope. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so now we are going to have that Q&A session where we're going to invite our speakers back up onto the stage and also welcome two new speakers who will take a second to introduce themselves. So if you just give us a second to get the setup ready for that, we'll be right back with that all set up. Share? Cool. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we are now going to kick off a little Q&A session. So, please feel free to ask some questions here. We have some super interesting minds up here to pick. But we have two new faces up here who had asked to introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Martin, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. My name is Martin. I come from Danfoss, and for those of you who don't know Danfoss, it's the biggest manufacturing company in industrial section in Denmark. And I see on my way over here I became a CEO, so thank you for that one. Yeah, you really invited the nice guys, huh?
Congratulations, we just made that happen.
Thank you. No, in every day I try to manage the operation excellence in Danfoss within our BU on a Europe platform. So and I am 33 years old, and I've been collaborating with Factbird for the last, 4-5 years. 3 years, I think it actually is 4, but that was before you, Søren. And that's pretty much about me. Yeah.
Go ahead and pass over to Mikkel here.
Yes, my name is Mikkel, and my position is correct. I'm a senior manager at Danish Crown. At Danish Crown, we have been working with Factbird for 2 years now. We have implemented at 34 sites, still growing for at least 10 more sites. We have a plus 400 lines, so we have been on a long journey, still working towards that excellence in the end. And I have been working with Factbird for 8 years, something like that. So from the start, yes.
So I'll actually start with a question that was sent in from an existing customer. And I guess this one will be directed towards you, Nikolaj, and you, Søren. Basically, they were sharing that they've been a customer, they said, for just over 12 months. And they're very excited at all these future-looking developments that we're at. And it might be a concern or a thought shared by a lot of people in this room that the current system, as good as it is not perfect. And there are features that people are requesting for our base operations. And so this particular customer was saying, okay, all of this seems super exciting, but what about the things that we're requesting for the existing system? And is that still a priority?
Definitely still a priority. I think, just to give you some clarification, the way we have organized ourselves within Factbird, we have designated development teams for each of the 3 applications that I just mentioned, which mean that we're still heavily invested in improving the existing product and adding more features, because we know that that's still a journey. But we also had the opportunity to add additional resource and make investment to make the second and the third application possible as well. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I think you're spot on, Nikolaj, and I think it was mentioned in your presentation as well. That's the beauty of a software as a service relationship, that it keeps adding and keeps giving. So without necessarily the pricing go up dramatically, right?
So yes, please, any questions from the crowd, and don't just leave us sitting up here, I beg. So any questions from out there, please? Hands up, and Michael here can hand deliver a microphone. There we go.
Thank you. So when I opened my LinkedIn, everywhere I see unified namespace as kind of a buzzword, and I was wondering, how does Factbird fit with this whole concept? Like, how do you see the future, and how do you see the development of this unified namespace concept as it relates to Factbird itself?
I think in particularly, I'm not a huge expert within unified namespace. I think I would start by saying that. But I think Factbird as a solution will need to be able to integrate with customers' own databases and their systems. We will not be able, or we will not be the solution that stores all the information of your company. I think there are other services out there that does a better job than we do, and major players within the space. But we need to figure out how Factbird fits into that space, so we can improve upon it or be a part of it.
And this is for you, Mikkel. They're asking, you've implemented Factbird on a lot of sites. What is your advice to get adaptation for people actually using it and implementing it in everyday life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what we have focused a lot on is to turn a little bit around, instead of focusing us on the operations, what we need from there. Try to focus on the shop floor and the value creating for the operators down there. So we have failed also. When we started the implementation, we failed big, to be honest. And that is what we have learned from. So we we rescoped ourselves to start focus on, okay, we need to have this to live on a daily basis. We need this to be driven by the operators, not driven by us, but driven on the daily business and how they can support their daily business. So try to rescope in that format to say, how can we create value for you? And as we talked about OE a lot, they ask the question almost every day, what is OE? We don't understand it. So try to break it down on another level to say, okay, when we're talking about the downtime, how can you work on improving the downtime on a daily business? When we're talking about the changeovers, what can you do to improve your changeovers? Also with the micro stops, how can we balance out the line? So they can start to see, okay, if we do this, how they create value for them, have a better pay as well, also a better production, start to focus on that. When we turn that around and make our step-by-step procedure instead of implementing everything at once, because as you can see today, Factbird is delivering a lot of different solutions into the whole system, but focused on where to start and create value step by step. I think that is why we have had success, and we see the utilization of Factbird and the data as well.
If I can just comment that. Now you're discussing or sharing your story as a big company rolling out, and I think that's valuable for big companies as it is valuable for small companies. Making sure that we activate the operators on the shop floor, making sure that they see the technology as a partner, not as a piece of technology that will work against them. I've had and heard many stories also tonight about the entry point of introducing new technology where it's perceived as something that is going to monitor or work against them, but once embraced and start to being leveraged and used, it can actually be an amplifier of doing a better job, doing a more qualitative job, which essentially everyone wants to do. So I think the successful implementation is about making sure that the voice of the operator is being heard, also to your point, Trevor, and making sure that it's activated from ground up so it doesn't become a top-down project and another IT project,
Yep.
but more so something that is enforced in order to make operators the hero of the day.
Completely that.
And I think, sorry.
Just a comment to that on us, Søren, because I fully agree on that, but I also think if we look at the market now and all in the businesses, we look at a place where we have a lot of different generations on the market. We have generations who are not born with technology, and we have generations who are born with technology from early age. So how to fit them all, I think that's the toughest thing, and this is still something we are struggling with every day, to be honest, because we have one super operator who is used to apps and smartphones and everything. He's just connecting immediately. And then we have one guy still using an old Sony Ericsson or Nokia, has never touched any screen before. So how to limit that out in the culture transformation, that is the real challenge for us every day still, I think, and will be for many years.
And Trevor, just in your presentation, I think these characters that we're hearing about could be considered the blockers to change or the blockers to progress in that continuous improvement journey. And so do you have any tips on how you can get these people on board or how you could get them on side?
Yeah, I think you have to use them, get them to actually do the tasks themselves, but allow them to do it. Historically, we've stopped them doing it. We've stopped them taking the benefit from there. Let them make mistakes. They will make mistakes. But embrace those mistakes. Embrace that as part of the process because they've got to learn. And if they don't learn and are not given the opportunity, they then become even stronger blockers. They become more and more resistant. Every time we try and give people the opportunity to improve and we stop them from doing that, they become more and more resistant. So you've got to allow them access to it. And yeah, I say they will make mistakes. They'll also make some great improvements. One of the things we used to do, we used to get anybody off the shop floor, and they used to come into the monthly review meeting with the regional director to present what they'd done, and it was very nerve-wracking for them. They'd go and be sort of in amongst people they wouldn't normally be with, but it generated a real sort of buzz. They'd go back and tell the mates, "You'll never guess what I've just been doing. I've been sat in the boardroom." We had pizza afterwards as well. It was a cracking session, and it breaks down those barriers, and those layers upon layers upon layers of resistance melt away very quickly. And once we did that in the example I gave, that's when the real churn of improvement started, giving people that opportunity.
Any more questions from out here?
I was just curious, like the same question towards you, Martin, actually, because you're not in the same company as Mikkel. Maybe you have different views on it.
I think that one thing that is very much in common, whether you're a small company or a big company, whether you're in food or whether you're in industrial engineering, I think one thing is that you need to assess your maturity level before going into installations of systems. It could be Factbird or others. Because if you're talking maybe to smaller companies, they are not afraid of the system or doing the small incremental stuff, but still they need to be aware, where are we at this point? Because I can see from Danfoss' perspective, we are quite high in maturity level. We are not perfect at all, but we are quite high. Does that mean we are getting better than others in a faster pace? I don't think. It's meaning that we have access to a lot of data that maybe the smaller companies don't have. And we need to respect that, but also we need to have people on board on the bus driving that journey. Also echoing what you said, at the beginning, actually, I drew the first pilot in Danfoss, and it was only on one single machine in one area. And what we actually did was presenting it to the CEO of the segment. And he was like, he actually stopped me presenting, and he was like, get that app on my phone, and I will try to watch all your lines while you keep getting lines into the system. So that was, again, igniting a fire, or at least some spirit in people that actually what you're doing is creating a differences, and you're becoming better, and that's pretty much good for everybody in the company, right? Yeah.
Thank you. It's my impression that the solution is fundamentally galvanically separated from the OT network. But I assume the more it gets integrated in the shop floor systems, the more you will touch upon regulations like NIS2, Cybersecurity Act, IEC 62443, and all those standards. Could you put some words on your strategy about that?
Definitely. Part of, at least part of the roadmap is addressing NIS2 specifically, because as you're alluring to, we're slowly maybe entering the area where we're not a non-invasive solution anymore, but actually affecting what's going on the shop floor. And I think we need to be very delicate in how we maneuver it, because as of right now, we simply provide information and guide, but we don't tell the machine how to do its job. We instruct people on how they can perform it. So sort of the strategy is to still steer away from OT, that we don't become a part of actually telling the machine what to do, but have the approach of the human in the loop. And I think we, at least at Factbird, believe that people will play an essential role in running factories for many, many years. I think some industry-leading companies may have fully automated lines where no human touch the finished product from raw materials all the way to the end, but it's a selected few. And there's still a lot of companies out there that we can help with our solution, where we equip the individual to make sure that they know how to do their job and provide value. So yeah, overall strategy is still to steer outside of OT, if that makes sense.
First, thanks for giving us this easy way to look at our data in the factory. So really, really helpful for us on the shop floor. And I can really relate to the new features, so also really good to see. Can you maybe help describing a little bit more on the CI part? And you know, it's easy now to see how our machines run, but you know, looking into lean and CI, flow is really king for us. So how do you see Factbird can support us looking at the flow and, for instance, lead time of our batches and our products, maybe passing through many machines?
I think so too. I think it's a good question. I think first of all, the way we're thinking about it and trying to address it is to make, proven tools from Lean and Six Sigma readily available, so that you have a standard format or a standard process for how you do your root cause analysis. So if we can introduce the tool within Factbird and let you easily navigate to the process of identifying your root cause, we'll make that simpler. So when you are looking at all your courses and try to address the biggest one, then we can help you guide towards getting to the root cause. So we're thinking about making those tools readily available, easy to use, but that you also have the history of it. Because often what happens is that you'll do a session on the shop floor, it's left in an Excel spreadsheet or on a whiteboard, and then you move on to the next one and you've maybe forgot what you did last time. But here, linking it to the history so you can go back. In terms of establishing flow and understanding lead time, I think that calls, at least for the Factbird solution, for a broader line concept than what we currently offer. It's something that we're investigating, so we not only track the bottleneck, but in the future can actually track the entire line. It's not part of the roadmap for next year, but definitely on the drawing boards for the future.
I think Martin and Mikkel, I'd be quite curious to hear about how the implementation of Factbird on this topic has adapted the continuous improvement efforts across your two companies, as to how it's changed and how it's had that impact there. Off you go.
So you want to know about the impact that the system has done on our case, yeah? Well, as said before, we started with one single pilot on one machinery, and now we are across the whole factory, and also other factories in Europe and the US. But it has been a journey for us also to develop together with you guys. So, for instance, we are very much into ESG and how we collect data on our energy consumption. So that we have developed together with you. Now I think we have, it's a guess, but I think we have maybe the most monitored factory in Denmark towards having the view of energy consumption. And we see quite some heavy paybacks on our investment there. So that's for sure is something we do along the way, that we develop new things and also utilizing things that you guys develop to us. So I would not call it an official partnership, but it's something that we do together. And I don't know if it's some shitty sales shit Søren has told you, but whenever we ask you guys to develop something, you never say no. I never heard it. So I think the worst answer I can get is we put it on our roadmap. That's the worst thing I ever heard. Because usually every time you say something, yeah, we can try to create that, and we will have a consultant from you guys calling us or texting us maybe a week after with a solution. If you don't have it in place, you simply develop, and that's has also been a key driver for us to really involve in what we do with you guys.
Yeah. To support you as well, Martin. I haven't heard roadmap, but I've heard backlog for a long time, but I think it's the same more or less. But super service and super support, we always find a solution, one way or the other, so that's also a great service to get. But I think what really kicked in for us was when we started to do it, we have a civil war between our engineers, technicians, and the guys on the floor. They would never agree on the stop courses because it was a stomach gut, to be honest. So now we got the real-time data. We got some data, some facts we actually could use. And instead of collecting papers, because we have spreadsheets, we could fill this room with spreadsheets, I think, just for some of our factories. So now we can get the data immediately instead of using time of typing in Excel and first have the figures maybe next day, oh, 06, so we'll have it tomorrow. Now we have it real time. All the board meetings are prepared. The data is there. We can discuss if it's valid or not. It depends on the structure, but we can follow up on that. Then we're starting to have a journey, starting to focus on the valid data, and afterwards we can start to trust the data. When we can start to trust the data, we see the real impact. I remember the first, one of the first rollouts we did, just to make a short story. We had the whole factory had some issues with the foil for a long time, and the management won't hear from them. You can't prove it, and procurement, you can't get a new foil. It's too expensive. We got Factbird on the line, and after 2 months, we can prove we had a loss on the foil for 1.3 million a year. We showed that to procurement, and we said, what will a more thick foil cost? It will cost 100,000. I think the business case is there. We changed the foil, and we didn't have one break at the foil for 4 weeks in a row. I think that's a good case where the employees really had the drive to show something for the management. And then it started, so I think something like that.
Works. We got 2 here.
So it's clear to me how you can use it in a production floor. But has Factbird ever partnered with a company, for example, like Danfoss, but not in the production part, in the systems part? Like I don't know if Danfoss is building full systems, but have you ever partnered with the companies that are building the systems to see if you can somehow make their systems better for the customer? I mean, to have the same customer.
We have had, good question, we've had some local partnerships on equipment manufacturers, which has to some extent proven valuable. But from a scalable perspective, there's simply not enough volume for us to make that our primary business objective. But we're open to entertain OEM relationships and incorporate our data structure into existing systems that are being brought to market. We also have a great display of a strategic partnership with Omron to the right of me, where we're embedding our cloud solution into their setup, where we're part of an overall solution in a combination. So I'd say that this is part of the strategy.
Hi, I just have a question. When we talk about the continuous improvement, when we train our staff, we want to have all the skills, and in the coming training matrix you have, we can see the skills. So we have a lot of skills on each employee. When we shift him over from a mixing area to packing area, we lose them skills. Will the new training matrix then see, if I said on this machine I need 5 people to have the skills, so the guy I take from one department to another, when his skills is going out, it will show on Factbird, now I need to train maybe 3 people into the new skills we are having less of.
Really good question. I think in the initial version and the one you just saw, that will not be possible. But for us, it's making sure that these 3 applications work together to better help you guys out. And what we're envisioning for production insights is making a solution where you can adjust and plan out how you're manning your different shifts and your different equipment. And a straightforward idea here is exactly what you're addressing, and what we have on the drawing board is to make sure that interacts with the skills matrix, so you see the implications of when I'm doing my manning and the planning of my manning, I can see that I have the sufficient capabilities at the different shifts. And if I remove operator A and B and put them to the night shift, all of a sudden I'm vulnerable during the day because I have no one to operate equipment A. That's definitely on the roadmap to be developed.
Then we have a quite long question from Dominic online, which is regarding the CI tools such as root cause analysis and action plans. Will these be available to extract as supporting evidence towards our own already standardized internal forms? And will the upcoming roadmap that Factbird are currently working on regarding development and new tools, including timeline, be ready, available for us to share with others within our businesses?
Can you repeat the first part again?
You didn't get it?
Because there was one thing that I'm unsure of.
Yeah.
I can answer the second one.
Regarding CI tools, such as root cause analysis and action plans, will they be available for extracting to supporting evidence for existing already owned?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I can promise a direct integration to already existing, but extracting them from the system, most definitely. And then there was the question about the roadmap and the timeline.
Yes.
So everything I demoed here tonight will be available in January as of next year. And then we'll continue add to the functionality and build new capabilities throughout next year. That will come, if not the exact launch dates yet, but summer next year, and then end or beginning of 26. End of 25 or beginning of 26.
So, Nikolaj, you were talking about LLM models that you want to implement later on. Have you any thoughts and discussed any investments in Gen AI to move forward, or do you expect that to be done from partners?
I don't see us as an AI company. I don't think we're the best at that. I think others have better skills, better capabilities to develop that. But for us, it's about applying that technology as a tool to empower our product and make that better. And right now we're experimenting with different models, whether that's Claude or ChatGPT from OpenAI. But we'll select the one that performs the best and the one that gives us the best results, and not rely on sort of internal development of models.
Trevor, so there's a question regarding you showed Industry 3.0, 4.0. There's talks about 5.0. When educating the new generation of frontline workers, what are you focusing on?
I think because it's changing so rapidly, we've got to keep scanning the horizon and looking at what is next. So yes, 4.0 is upon us. Some businesses are still not even at 3.0 properly yet, and we've got to acknowledge that. We've got to make sure that you pull the chain upwards as well as scan the horizon and see what's coming next. So I think the answer to that is everything, really. We've got to be looking for that. We are trying to build in Industry 4.0, but it will rapidly come to pass that that's also out of date. That's the very nature of what's happening now. It's happening at a pace that we've not seen for a long, long time, and you've got to keep right at the forefront of that, and it's difficult. You've got to make sure that the information that you give that is up to date today is not out of date tomorrow. The gentleman down there mentioned AI. AI is evolving so rapidly, we're struggling to keep pace with it as educators. So I'm amazed that people are keeping pace with it in industry as well. All those things are changing. But what you can't do is you can't stand still. You've got to keep looking at how that leverage happens and how you get access to it.
Martin, let me get the right one here. So you were speaking about smart factory and next-gen technologies. Where does Factbird fit in there, and where is your focus on adding new technologies, and what are you considering when adding technologies?
I think with a reference in the automation pyramid, So we also heard that they don't really focus on being the number one system on top controlling everything, where we have the ERP and the SCADA and the MES system. I see Factbird as a system just beneath that one. So you have the control from the PLC on top doing smart things and integrate with surrounding systems. And also if you look at the automation pyramid, the lower you get, the more room there are to play in a pyramid, right? So I think Factbird has now proven for quite a long time that they are innovative and they can really take up that space in the bottom of the pyramid, enabling new things for us. So when buying new equipment, smart technologies, we need to be aware that Factbird is there to grab all those things. Then we can talk about would the PLC be on the machinery after the next 10 years? That's a question. But at least we should have the system to give us that data, at least in the meantime. And I'm sure that within 10 years from now, you will just have a new solution so we can keep having the data subtracted. Also, echoing a bit the last question about the AI and the industry for 5.0, I think we should maybe just pause a bit and ask ourselves, are we done doing industry 4.0 really? Because there was a lot in that circle of knowledge. And one thing that not many people are aware of is that robotics and AI have two things in common. The terms are more than 50 years old. We have known them for more than 50 years. And look at just 10 years ago, where are we then with AI? Not very far, right? So I think they are still part of the Industry 4.0, but let's finish that off before we know what should be in Industry 5.0. Of course, I don't have the answer here because then I would be a genius, but yeah, that's my way of looking at the new investment and the industrial revolution.
So I think that's all the time we have for the Q&A, but I'm sure you can find any of these gentlemen here to ask more questions afterwards. But could we get a round of applause for our panel, please? So, a recording of this whole Factbird Forward event will be sent out to all registered attendees, so you can come back and check on anything that you might have missed first time around. As mentioned before, he'll be delighted his face is up here again. Please go find Anders and pester him with all of your feedback. It's super valuable to us, and it's how we can make sure that the product is best suited to what you guys actually need out there. So please find Anders, and anybody with a purple badge would be more than happy to give you a little systems demo or anything at this Factbird stand over here. So if there's any features that you want to see, we've got the setup ready for that. Also, the shining star of this event, Omron, over here, they've got this very fancy gadget that they are actually simulating a real production line on, and so they can actually show how you can gather data directly from the PLCs without the need for the retrofitted hardware. So please stop by. Kenneth and Klaus will be there, and they will be explaining everything about the Omron Factbird partnership. Here is the part we're all excited for, the dinner menu. Okay, here it is sliders, so mini burgers. You can see the menu up there. They'll be served somewhere at some time, somewhere back there, but they'll be pretty soon because I know we're all hungry. And please look for Vitalina if you need a gluten-free or vegan option, or you have any dietary requirements. She'll be more than happy to sort you out with something for that. Also a thank you to Copenhagen Distillery. It's been a fantastic venue, and yeah, thank you for having us. And it's been, I think there's a great opportunity for networking here afterwards. As I said, the open bar runs until 8, so plenty of time for more looser networking where we can really get to know each other. And here is a sample of the menu that's coming. We've got, they've actually done a signature cocktail for us, the Jungle Facts, and I believe it's heavy on the rum, so be careful. But it's a modern take on a classic Jungle Bird, so definitely give it a try. It's free, you can't go wrong. And one last thing, I think this event has been, it's been immense for Factbird as a company to show where we are as of today, and that's only been made possible by our entire marketing team. They have worked tirelessly over the last couple of weeks, believe me. They have been doing some long hours in the office, and there's too many of them to call out by name. But could we please get a big round of applause for the marketing team who made this possible? So that's everything. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you out there.